Okay, so usually like people are like, oh, finance, it's a little bit boring and things like that. But we've got a really exciting panel now, all around Dragon's Den, double-digit growth, and how important it is for people that are raising, forecasting, like what the future of D2C looks like. So if I could get everyone to give a little intro on themselves, name, a bit about what you do and the company, that'd be great.
Hello, my name's Roz. I'm here with Inventory Planner by Sage. We help retailers make sure they're optimizing their stock by buying at the right time. So looking at historical data, looking at trends to make sure that they're not overstocking or understocking, and making sure they're really putting their money in the right place to help the business grow.
Hi guys, I'm Liam Browne from Power Cacao. We provide the world's finest ceremonial grade cacao to consumers and businesses all over the UK, which is about to expand into the US. Cacao is all about, it's plant medicine, like ayahuasca, like these things that are propelling people towards the best version of themselves, the full power vibration of themselves. So it's a heart-opening plant medicine that allows people to step into their own personal magnificence. Coffee is tapping you into your sympathetic nervous system. Cacao's tapping you into your parasympathetic nervous system, which allows you to still be stimulated, like caffeine does with a coffee, but it allows you to be creative, inspired, and calm at the same time, not in this kind of jittery razor blade world that a lot of us are in all the time. So yeah, that's what I do. Ultimately, we're a yoga brand. We're propelling people towards enlightenment.
Hi everyone, I'm Richard. I own a firm called CronosNow. We do e-commerce, CPG, DTC, accounting and inventory systems. We really specialize in getting your inventory and COGS numbers right, specifically for people who are trying to grow to exit. It's kind of our niche.
Hi everyone, I'm Blaze. I wear two hats. So my first company, it's Amazon Distribution Accelerator. And out of a pain point that I had with reaching for growth capital, we created a platform called Turbodash, which democratizes the access to growth capital strictly for the e-commerce and making it faster and more accessible, and by which you can make better decisions about the growth funding. For e-commerces, the D2C brands, we have more than 50 providers on board with more than 80 products specialized in the e-commerce field.
Thanks. And Liam, we'll start with you. So you've scaled from grassroots to 2 mil, and you had a big moment on Dragon's Den. What did that kind of visibility teach you about like funding and growing the brand?
If you can get on the BBC for 15 minutes, you're going to smash it, because it's bigger than anything else you can do. People think it's the dragons and it's all that, but if you can just that exposure to 5-6 million people instantly, and you don't fuck it up, which was my biggest prerequisite when I went on there, is I don't fuck it up, and just make sure that but yeah, that growth expansion was just like, people said, oh, we messed a few things up, but you can't set your business up to do 10,000 sales in a week, because ultimately 2 months down the line you'll be out of business. So it's like, how do you manage that? How do you hustle that while it's happening, and then sort of just plateau and then build from that space where it's come back down, where it's normalized. Well, it's never normalized again, because as soon as you have that exposure, you've got to then capitalize on it when it comes down, and like bring the right people in, get the right team in. But ultimately, after Dragon's Den, we were just running around like idiots. It was, we fucked loads of stuff up, but like someone said earlier, like every time you fail, it makes you stronger. There's no such thing as a failure. It's just like, right, how do we avoid doing that again and making that mistake?
Did you get more from the investment or more from the exposure?
The exposure.
And how long did it last for? Like the way
Still happening.
Still going. Good. And Roz, we've just kind of spoke then about you've got to be prepared, and inventory is one of the biggest spends that like a retailer's got. Like, what are the impacts on a business like when they get investment in inventory wrong?
Yeah, sure. No, I think the key thing is about being agile. I think, as Liam just said, like you can't necessarily know what's going to happen next week, but the key thing is about having access to the information to make those decisions. And like key things like not having enough stock is going to ultimately damage your brand reputation. If someone wants to go online and it's not there, they're going to go somewhere else and buy it from somewhere else. But I think for us, it was actually the overstock and the buying too much that was crippling businesses more, because you can always buy more stock in, and if someone really wants your product, they'll come and buy it. But if you've got too much, what do you do with it? You sell it off for cheaper. You're, again, damaging your brand reputation. But we did some studies like just over a year or so ago now, and we looked at about 500 UK retailers, and half of those retailers said they were having issues with overstock because they couldn't really track the volatility of the market. And of those retailers, they were making about 15% of their stock. They were just writing it off. And that's just killing brands if you think about the money that they invest into stock, and then they're just kind of wiping it off their balance sheet is, really impactful.
And Richard and Blaze, so TurboDash helps e-com brands find and compare the financing options, and CronosNow is an outsourced accounting firm that looks at COGS, inventory, and profitability. What's the biggest misconception that e-commerce brands have when they are raising money?
So maybe I will start with the question: how many of you raised any capital for your D2C business? Probably some part of you tried to reach for capital. And the second question would be, how many options did you have? It's probably three to five. So the first misconception is, in our opinion, that people are not taking much the right care to analyze more than 5 or 10 offers and to reach for the right solution for them.
I think it's, we work with about 100 brands, and all of them have some type of growth capital or debt. There's a big misconception that the easiest debt is the best, right? So you take a Shopify capital loan or your Wayfly loan, and you don't compare what's supposed to be the best debt for your circumstance. I think easy versus best is quite a difficult misconception.
Yeah. And Liam, you're quite open about not coming from a traditional business background. What's helped you the most in building the mindset to lead a fast growing brand and be prepared for it, because it's hard going?
So my experience was selling lots of drugs when I was younger and making people dance and party. And I kind of just used the same mindset when I started selling cacao. It was I bought some, sold it at a profit, bought more, sold it at more, and just kept going from there. It's only really been since Dragon's Den that we've kind of brought things into line, and all these this is my worst place to be. This is so boring for me, everything everyone's talking about. I'm not interested at all. And that's why I've got my operations manager, my marketing strategies with me. But it was I just made a decision in 2019. I was right, I want to be rich, because I was a yoga teacher. All these rich people are coming to me for advice. And I'm fucking hell, I'm getting less than minimum wage really per hour for what I'm doing. And these people are coming to me for all this information, doctors, physicians, lawyers. And I was right, I'm going to get rich. How do I get rich? By being a yoga teacher. I want to be able to buy everyone a meal in a room. And it was cacao was already my thing. So it was just follow that. And obviously everything that you do in life, selling drugs, I used to sell stolen clothes when I lived in Manchester, when I grew up in Withenshaw. So it's all this hustle and just bringing it into something where I don't have to worry about a fucking police coming around my house, it's for your anxiety, it's so much better to be doing something legit. So yeah, that was really, does that answer your question?
Not really, but everyone seemed to enjoy it in the audience, so that's all that matters. Raz, I'm really sorry, but you're going to have to follow that now.
You've been to jail?
Why is it important to ensure buying an investment into stock is not a siloed business decision?
Oh my God, this is going to be so boring. Yeah, it's basically so that people like Liam and his operations team are actually talking to each other, because ultimately there's no point in someone coming to an event like this, I'm selling it, and being really inspirational and people wanting to buy your product, your marketing. We talked all morning about marketing and relationships with our customers and how we do this conversion. There was no point if you've not got any stock. So there's no point in spending thousands and thousands of pounds to sell something that actually isn't arriving for a month's time. So I think that keep it short, because otherwise it's going to get even more boring than that.
And guys, what do you think that the founders in the room and people that are kind of running these e-com businesses, financially and operationally, what do they need to think about or have in place before they go about raising capital?
I think you need to know what your profitability is and what your cash conversion cycle is. And without those two in place, you can't forecast inventory, you can't do anything if you don't know what the actual landed cost of your inventory is. Now that seems easy, but it moves, right? So a lot of our clients are in the US, so tariffs at the moment. If you aren't taking that into account, well, you might go and raise capital and you're just going to sell more, but at a loss. And I think that's a very dangerous place to be.
I think also we are the fan of the very, very simple cash flow driven solution. So you need to have your cash flow forecasts, like accurate cash flow forecasts. And then if you're going to have those 10 to 15 offers of capital and you're going to know the cost of capital, then you really know if you can afford it or not. Because if you're negative in cash flow, like no option probably will help you, especially in terms of alternative financing. It is more like a tool that amplifies the direction that you're already going. So if you're profitable, you're going to go in the right direction. But if you're not, you probably will going to fail faster and with, bigger bang.
And Liam, how's like being the face of your brand impacted how you grow, how you raise, how you communicating with your audience and your investors? Have you changed in the way that you communicate, or?
No. I just basically try and keep it as authentic as possible all the time. Like I rock up to meetings at Peter Jones's office and he's like a boardroom and everyone's in suits and I'm in a vest with fucking mala beads all over me, and trying to get him to connect with the heart when he's drinking a cacao. So it's like, so trying to keep that authenticity, but then also realizing like I was trying to step away from the brand a little bit, and then I'm the main brand asset with the Jaguar and the logo. Like I'm the main brand asset, so it's kind of like letting go of that kind of thing of like let the business do what it wants, and kind of bringing yourself into the limelight and being okay with that, with the founder story. Because ultimately my founder story is I just flicked a switch in my head where I was like, I'm gonna be rich. And then I just went for that, but rich in a spiritual way. Like, how do I create a brand that is of service to people? How do I most serve? And there was a book called, I think it's called Fastlane Millionaire or Side Hustler by MJ DeMarco. And it's basically saying, if you've got a product that is creating 7 times the value for the consumer, you will be very fucking successful. So I was like, I know that every time I do a ceremony, every time I sell a bag of cacao, I'm giving at least 7 times the value. So it's like having the confidence in that, not like, am I just hustling and ripping somebody off? It's like, no, I'm actually adding value to that person's life.
And do you think that the soul of the company is like maintaining as you are going through this growth, or do you think that it's going to change and evolve?
Once it changes, it will, when you work in the spiritual realm of consciousness and energy, once you shift into something else, it'll all be taken away from you. So every time we get a new employee on board, like obviously they think I'm weird as fuck. They think what we do is really weird, but then they kind of get on board, and I have to reiterate the sacredness of what we're doing all the time, and like the energy that got us there is the energy that's going to take us forward. But obviously with more professional mechanisms in place, like P&Ls, which I didn't even know what that was at first. I thought it was an insurance company. And like I still sit in these P&L meetings. I'm like, I'll be doing all right. I had no idea. Yeah, we're doing all right.
And Raj, you've worked with brands like Asher and Miu and some big players out there. Like, what are they doing differently, do you think, to kind of get it right?
Yeah, so they're a really forward-thinking business. Like I think the founders and the people running it have had a lot of experience in like the sector and space, and they know that they can't just wing it. And I think they're being prepared, and I think they're trying to get solutions in place that are helping them with their growth. And they're a really cool brand because they sell like little pieces of jewelry, which, the market online is very saturated with little pieces of gold jewelry. And they want people to come into store and interact with their goods because they're high quality. And for them, they wanted to roll out as many stores as they could while maintaining their brand, the credibility of their brand. And to do that, they needed to make sure they had the right stock in the right place at the right time. And that just wasn't kind of ringing up the store manager at the end of the day and saying, how many of you sold today? How much do we need to send you tomorrow? But being more proactive about it and looking in advance. And, is our Oxford Street store going to be doing, more here, and our Bristol store going to be doing a little bit less? So really being proactive and actually not just going, and here's a new solution, everybody, let's use it, but taking the time to think about how we roll that out, using the right people within the business to slowly implement it and gradually go through that process. And I think that's something we do quite well at Inventory Planner. It's not just I think we said earlier, come and buy this app and it'll revolutionize your business. It's actually about what do you need as a business to evolve and to grow, because we're all a bit different, and how do we roll that out, implement it, and make sure that you've had your hand held throughout that process, that it actually works and can scale.
And guys, like you've seen like a wide range of like D2C businesses. What kind of separates the brands that do go through scale and they do it responsibly, and those that burn out like post-raise, and what advice would you give to them?
So I would advise, like I said in the beginning, that there's more than 50 products, more than 50 e-commerce providers with more than 80 products, and this is along like 5 or 6 categories. So there's a different product for inventory purchasing, different one for ads, different one for working capital, for daily operations. So I think those brands that scale, from our perspective, that scale consciously, create their own fin stack, because you don't need not one product is equal to each other. They're all different for different needs, and the crucial part is to use the right financing for the right purpose in the right time. And then it's actually a tool that you can use, and a real language of, growth language that you can use as an additional tool for your e-commerce. So yeah.
I'm going to give it a non-accounting answer here. I think the brands that we work with that are scaled to 40, 50 million plus in very short periods, every single one of them had a higher meaning behind what they were doing. We have some, however, though, that have that same kind of sales trajectory that then fall over because they've chosen the wrong funding options, or the second reason is their inventory. So it's quite interesting having all three of you up here today, because there needs to be all three of those components. Of course, a good accountant will help, but there's quite a few of us, right? The real meaning behind what you're doing, though, you need to back it up with proper numbers around the inventory, and as you're funding, getting the right funding for your situation, not just the easiest funding. I think that's the way to go.
And lastly for you, Liam, what's next for Full Power Cacao?
Global domination. No, just to become basically to sort of keep spreading the message of like people becoming the fullest vibration of themselves, getting rid of whatever traumas they need to get rid of, getting rid of the things that are holding them back. Especially with people saying you can't do stuff. Like we had a massive thing with the business. Just after Dragon's Den, the price of cacao went up 180%. So that's a hell of a lot of an increase. It was like a drought in Ivory Coast. And because I buy from Venezuela and I was buying through a broker in Spain, I was like, I need to go direct to Venezuela. I need to cut out this broker because I'm not going to be out, and my business would go under. If I had to buy it from this broker, the price that it went up, I was paying £11 a kilo, and it had gone up to £36 a kilo. I was out of business. So it's like, everyone's like, don't go to Venezuela, it's dangerous. I fucking went, it was amazing. Yeah. The cleanest country I've been in Central South America. It was epic. But then, it's hustling, making contacts, going to places that other people won't go to. And then since then we've been doing business, and luckily we by going direct, we could still get it at around sort of like £13-14 a kilo. We only had to put our prices up a little bit. So it's to keep this relationship going with Venezuela, to create other possible suppliers, but then to bust into the American market. The American market's 5 times as big as the UK and EU put together for cacao. And then just to really... The mission is to get cacao to take over rum coffee by 2032. I met a shaman who was the cacao shaman in Guatemala in 2012. He said to me, cacao's going to take over rum coffee by 2032. I thought he was a crackhead. And then actually, when we was at the midway point, loads of people knew about cacao. 2 years later, I'm on Dragon's Den. 6.8 million people know about cacao, and that's probably spread to about 20 million in the UK. It's kind of where yoga was at when I started it in 2010. Where people were like, what is it? Is it chocolate? What's it? You don't really know. And it's like wine. You've got the worst cacao in the world, the best cacao in the world, everything in between, the creme de la creme, everything within that category, all the different species of cacao plants. So people just think it's one thing, but it's like thinking wine. Every glass of wine is going to taste the same. It's all different, and it's who grows it, who brews it. So it's just education, self-realization, and just to get everyone on this fun vibe of not taking life so seriously, so have a fucking good time with whatever you're doing. Even if you're accounting, have a good time doing it. Yeah.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, guys.